Hello everybody. So I'm trying to make this video short. This is my moringa journey and just some tips and tricks on what to do. These seeds were over 2 years old, and a lot of times they tell you that they're not viable unless you use them immediately. I got these from a friend, and so I thought, they really weren't going to germinate whatsoever. So this is my journey. This is the things that I've learned. They make it seem like it's so difficult to grow moringa, especially here in the Northeast and in a pot at that, because they have a taproot that supposedly goes down so deep that they really don't do. I was told they really don't do well in pots. So I set up on my own little journey to find out whether or not they would do well in pots. The only reason they're on newspaper is I just didn't want to get my table dirty. So I went and I started to get each seed out. And as you can see, this one was kind of a little odd because it wasn't colored the way that the rest of them were. But still a seed nonetheless. Now this is the case in which they grow in. I find it's better to take them out of their little pod. That way they don't have that extra layer there to break through. It's already, bad enough that they had to break through dirt. So I figured I would take off their pod, and that process is kind of time consuming, but I was able to do it with just my fingernails, 2 hands, kind of push them together, and then out pops the seed. But depending on how many you have, it can be very time consuming. You could also use, I guess if you had some type of nutcracker, you could probably use that. It might make it a little bit easier. So as you can see, this is what they look like once you crack the shell open. They're just a little round ball, and they're usually white. There are some duds. There's some that you'll know when you get a dud. You'll crack the case and you'll either find nothing in there, or you'll find like little bits. Look like, the shell, looks like the seed kind of just broke apart. So that those are duds. So at the end of it, I only had the patience to do about 18. So these are approximately 18 seeds. And don't mind the animals on the picture there, but it's just whatever newspaper I had available. So I had about 18. And the reason why I had 18 because I had the pots that I had, the little starter pots that I had, there were 18 of them. And so I decided to plant 1 in each cell. And besides that, I didn't really have much faith in them. So I planted other seeds like on top of the moringa. Okay, don't shoot me, but I didn't have faith in them that they were going to sprout because they were 2 years old. So I planted tomatillo seeds with them. And as you'll see later, both of them begin to spring up, which was kind of crazy because I don't like to, cut down. I don't like to cut down sproutlets, but I had to make a choice. But anyway, so how I prepared them was I pre-moistened the soil, dropped the seed in, maybe about 1 inch deep, because I just kind of felt, whatever I felt was right. You know what I mean? Like these seeds, they want to grow. So you can't worry too much about like making mistakes. Oh my God, it's supposed to be 1/2 inch and I put it down 1 inch. It's fine. I just put a little hole, dropped them in there, covered them up. And then, like I said, it was pre-moistened, so I didn't have to put water over top of it. But then after I did that, I put saran wrap over it. That way I didn't have to worry about them drying out. because I did put them on a heating mat. And this was January the 27th that I actually planted them. And the heating mat is going to allow for them to germinate more quickly, because I was getting reports from my studies that they were going to take, 2 weeks to a month for them to germinate. And I was just so impatient. So I put them on the heating mat to see to see if that was accelerate the germination. And so I do recommend putting them on a heating mat. And so as you can see, there's a sproutlet there. And that sproutlet came up on February 2nd. So approximately within 6 days, I started to see the first sprout. And the other two that you see in the picture, they are tomatillo seeds. So like I said, I had a real problem because I had tomatillos and I had moringa coming up at the same time. So, but I was really happy to see that sproutlet, and I have it by the window so they can get natural sunlight, because you want them to start soaking up natural sun, as soon as possible. But I also supplemented them with artificial light with grow lamps. So, because they are from Africa and India, so you want to make sure that your moringa is getting plenty of sunlight, both natural and artificial light. So as you can see, tomatillos did really well. They sprouted up. But I don't know if you can make out, there's one in that picture that is a little bit different, and that is the moringa that is just like a little sprout. This was, let me see, I'm not quite sure when this picture was taken. Okay, yeah, this was on February the 16th that they started to get at least this big. So I would say they were like established seedlings. Like they weren't going anywhere. They were established, and I had out of the 18 I planted, 11 came up. So that's good. That's pretty much, that's almost like 50%, or a little over 50%. So here it is, March 11th. So this is like 2 months of growth, a little less than 2 months of growth here with this moringa. And I repotted it, and I had heard so many stories. Oh no, don't repot it. It's going to die because you're messing up their tap root, da da da. As you see later, this later grows on to be a huge, huge tree. But the issue is that the watering, what they tell you about the watering is that I lost, okay, this is the thing. I only had 2 that survived. And the reason why I lost them was because, not because I overwatered them, but water was sitting at the bottom. So you don't want to ever let water sit at the bottom. Because of the way that the tray was, water was sitting at the bottom. So it's not that you overwater them. Is that if there's any water sitting at the bottom of your plants and the roots is just soaking in them, then they're going to die. And I couldn't understand it because I didn't realize that water was collecting at the bottom, and I didn't understand why they died. So I just couldn't understand it at that point. But they died because, not because, like I said, not because of overwatering, but because the water was just sitting there. And I would wait until they were just bone dry, to the point where I felt like they were going to like kill over from water. And then I would water them and then watch them just die the very next day. It was very frustrating. I didn't know what was going on. But this time, next year when I begin again, I'm going to be well prepared, and I'm going to have a lot of moringa. So this is the same plant. I potted one in a bigger pot and then one in a smaller pot, just to kind of see how much it would take for them to survive, because I'm hearing most people say, "Oh, you need a huge pot if they can grow in a pot at all, because their taproot goes down so deep." Blah blah blah. So I had what I had, guys. So I used what I used, and they ended up surviving. So I don't know what everybody's talking about when they say that they have a huge taproot. Somehow, some way, these plants figured it out. So and when is this picture? This picture is well, the picture that would have been March the 11th. And this here is a picture of, because they are apparently, a plant is only as healthy as the nutrients that it's getting. So it was in a pot, so I needed to use some fertilizer. And what I use is, I have a bunny rabbit, and so they're, don't look at me crazy, y'all, but their poop is very high in nitrogen, and a lot of people use bunny rabbit poop as fertilizer. And I figured that they need, my bunny rabbit needed to earn his keep, so that's how I do it. I use their poop as fertilizer. And I don't know how some people do it. I guess they have this whole system where they can separate the poop from the little, wood chips. But wood chips are good for mulch as well. So I just leave it all in there. I don't have the stomach or the patience to sit there and pick out pellets. I don't know how they sift them out, but they do something with that. So I use that, and I also use fish fertilizer as well. Fish fertilizer is good because you can never ever overdo it, but it stinks to high heaven. So here you have different shades. This is the Moringa. I started harvesting it. I started harvesting it around in the middle of June. I could have done it. You could have did it at any time, because, but I wanted to wait till the tree was established. And some of the leaves, the bottom leaves would turn yellow, and then at the top were very, very rich and green. So I do believe that was probably a lack of, at times I wasn't watering like I should, and at times wasn't fertilizing. But the rabbit pellets, that to me, that's a slow release, so that helped it tremendously when I was being, lax and not feeling like fertilizing it. So I just started to, of course, 2 moringa trees is not enough to make a meal out of, make a pot of greens out of. So I just started accenting it with whatever meals I was making. So as you can see, the leaves are in there uncooked, so to get the maximum nutrition out of them. So like I said, I would just sprinkle it, more of a pretty decoration. Now this is kind of nasty here. I wanted to talk about bugs a little bit, because moringa is not indigenous to the Northeast. So I was curious to see what kind of insects would, try to mess with the moringa. The only thing that really messed with it was moths. Moths just loved the moringa. Now, I don't know if this is their larvae on the back of this leaf. I don't know. But what I did was, whenever I would see a moth, I would go crazy, and kind of swat it away. But I would check the undersides of the leaves, and if I saw anything crazy like this, I would just pick the leaf off. This leaf was turning yellow anyway, so it really didn't matter that, this leaf I had to take that leaf off. So they're definitely worms, but I don't know. Like I said, I think they might be moth larvae. I don't know. I did see there's a black butterfly that seemed to come around it. So I don't know if this is its larvae or not. I know the traditional monarch butterfly does not want it, because they generally eat plants that are from the carrot family. So I think from the carrot family, or maybe from milkweed. I don't know. Whatever. A whole bunch of moths like this plant, okay? So you can use a natural pesticide if you like. But I just didn't use any pesticide at all because they really didn't have that much of a problem with any other pests or anything like that. Now, I didn't think that my moringa would come into flower, but as you can see, these are buds. These are flower buds. They're very small. I think from the pictures that I've seen that they are supposed to be bigger than that. But in this picture, I first saw these buds on October the 10th. So that is a whole, let's see, from January 27th to October the 10th. So you're looking about 9 months later, I have flowers, and now it's starting to get cold. So I don't know if these flower buds are ever going to open up. And I have my hand in the picture to show you how small they are. But what I'm going to do is start taking my two surviving moringa trees, and they grew up to I'm about 5'5", 5'6", and they are pretty much as tall as me, a little bit shorter. So they definitely grew up to 5+ feet. And I would say they are a success in a pot. I would say they're definitely a success in a pot. The pot that I use, I'm sorry guys, I haven't shown you a picture, but the pot that I used wasn't really that big or deep. But it survived. It survived. As you can see, the leaves are nice and green, and to the point where it's coming to flower. It just needs a little bit more time, and these flowers will open up. I want these flowers to open up so bad. So I want these flowers to open. I doubt if it'll be able to go to seed, but I want to see these flowers because I'm told that they smell so lovely, and they're edible. So I really want these flowers bad, guys. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking them into my house and putting them on a strict diet of artificial sunlight somehow. I don't know how I'm going to hang up lights that high at 5 feet, but try to rig up something where I have artificial light plus sunlight, put them in the window, and hopefully these flowers will open up. I'm going to bring them in at night, but take them out during the day because the days are still at 70s. Now, also one thing I wanted to note is that early on, there was times where I was being very lazy, and I would take them out early in spring, and the temperature night got down to like 40, and they survived. They didn't look very good, but they survived. So I'm here to tell you that they can withstand temperatures of 40. And then when the weather started to go back up again, they just perked right on up. So I don't know about frost. I know they're going to die when frost comes, but about 40 to 45 degrees, I'm here to attest that they did survive. But it's going to be really hard to watch them die. I don't know if I can do it. I might have, like I said, I just might have to have them year round in the house. The other thing is what I could do is just chop the tree maybe in 2 or 3 pieces and repot them and have them regrow. So that is going to be an experiment in itself, because my understanding is that they're very easy to propagate if you cut them down, cut the woody stem and put it in dirt, and they'll start growing again. But I've seen people on the internet do that with really big moringa trees, and I don't know if it'll work because mine is like I said, it's 5 feet tall, but around its circumference is not that thick. So it's going to be a learning journey. So you guys look for the update on to see if these flowers sprouted or not. And as always, if you feel this could help somebody, or maybe you guys can help me, Lord have mercy, I need some help on this on my baby. I don't want to see it go. So maybe y'all can help me.